Hey guys, Tyler here, and thanks for checking out this video. And Shadowlands is finally here, which means Castle Nathria and Mythic Plus Season 1 will be here very soon. So I have a lot of stuff to talk with you guys about in this video. I'll have information on Conduits, your rotation, any of your stat priorities, Soulbinds, you name it, we're going to talk about it in here. So let's get started.
Mr. Eggplant presents.
So before we dive in, I just want to thank you guys for checking out this video, and thank you for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. I'm going to be hitting 1,000,000 views on my channel here very soon, and I'm hoping we could do something really exciting for that. But as for this video, we're going to be jumping around quite a bit, so there will be information in the description of the video, all the timestamps, and any changes that I ever make, because this will be a living, breathing guide, will be found down there below and in the pinned comments, so be sure and check that out. So the first bit we have here is Covenants. So for marksman hunters, we're actually in a really good spot for covenants because there are a couple different ones that we can choose from. The top tier ones right now are Kyrian, which is what I'm running. Also, the Night Fae is really good, particularly in those big, beefy AOE pulls. And then Necrolord is also somewhat down there below the top two for sure. But they are something that would be really good for like a quality of life spec for like your average player that's just wanting to play this game and have some fun. So the main ability for the Kyrian is going to be the Resonating Arrow. It's a big circle that you put on the ground that is an anima circle, and while an enemy is inside it and for 4 seconds after leaving it, you can ignore line of sight and still hit them, which is going to be really nice for both PvP and PvE. But the big perk is going to be the 30% increased critical strike chance you have against them while they are in that circle. So that's going to be really good for both single target and AoE. I mean, it does stack on your crit that you normally have as a character. So walking into Castle Nathria with even like a 4 or a 170 item level, it's going to net you like 50% crit chance, which will be really, really good starting out. And it also has a really good soulbind in Pelagos, which we'll talk about when we get to that section. And then as for the Night Fae, it's going to be the other more common covenants that you guys are going to see. You get the ability Wild Spirit, which has a 2-minute cooldown. Basically, what it does, it puts down a circle and marks everything in the circle with Hunter's Mark for 15 seconds. And while the Wild Spirits are active, whenever you use an ability or your pet uses an ability against a target in the circle, it will strike up to 5 nearby targets for about 38% of your attack power. So that'll be really, really good for high burst situations. If you're doing just large pulls in Mythic Plus, for example, this would be something that you would definitely want to do. You do fall off pretty hard, but this is still something that is worth taking, and I see Kyrian or Night Fae being right up there. And like I said with Kyrian, the Night Fae does have a really good soulbind, which is almost exactly the same as Pelagos, which is Naya. Basically, the two abilities that they both give you 350 mastery. That's what the Kyrian does. It gives you 350 mastery when you use your Resonating Arrow for that 10 seconds, which is a large amount of mastery that we don't have to worry about getting from gear. And then from the Night Fae, you get Grove Invigoration. The other covenant you might see is going to be the Necrolords. I actually talked about them in a previous video, and honestly, it's really fun to play. Their ability is Death Chakram, and what it does is it's basically a glaive toss that bounces. So it bounces up to 7 times and does significantly more damage, 15% more every time it bounces, but it gives you focus back. This will be something, if you're just wanting to play a marksman hunter and just have fun with it, I would definitely suggest going with Death Chakram. It smooths out our rotation pretty good to where you're not so focus starved, and this would couple really well with like the Legendary Helm if that was something that you were interested in, just to go out there and have fun. You're not worried about pushing like that 1% top tier damage. The Necrolords might be where you want to go. So with these soulbinds comes conduits, and they are pretty much the borrowed power that we have to deal with right now, but there are some really good ones out there, and there are 3 different types, which are potency, endurance, and finesse. And so as for potency, if you are running with Kyrian, the best one to do is going to be Enfeebled Mark. Basically what it does is it increases the damage that enemies take while they're in that circle of your Resonating Arrow by 7.5% at the very lowest. It only goes up from there, and that's definitely a good thing because you are going to be critting a lot there as well. Other ones to choose would be Sharpshooter's Focus, which extends the time you have True Shot up by about 20%. It goes up from there. And then lastly, you have your Powerful Precision, which basically what it does is it buffs the damage of your Arcane Shot, Multi-Shot, or Chimera Shot if you are taking that. And it does do a nice amount of damage, increases it by 5%. As for the Night Fae, you're going to want to run with Spirit Attunement, and basically what it does is it makes your Wild Spirit's ability last 3 seconds longer base, and then it increases the damage that they do by 10% base. You can only obviously go up from there. And then from there, you're going to want to run either Sharpshooter's Focus or then Powerful Precision. And then lastly, both the Necrolords and the Venthyr are going to be the same. Their number one is going to be Sharpshooter's Focus, followed by Powerful Precision, and then finally, if you're running with Necrolords, Necrotic Barrage. Other than that, though, you're not going to see a ton of Venthyr played right now in its condition, which is, kind of sad because I was really looking forward to that. And as for the Endurance Conduits, what I would suggest running with is Resilience of the Hunter, which basically, whenever you use your Feign Death, you have to time it correctly, of course, but you take reduced damage for 8 seconds after you use your Feign Death, which could be huge in both Mythic Plus and for Raid, particularly in progression. And then also Markman's Advantage is really good. Basically, what it does is you use your Hunter's Mark on the target, and it reduces the damage you take from that single target by 3%. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be the difference between living in a fight or pushing that higher key in Mythic Plus. And then finally, the Finesse conduit that I would go with is Reversal of Fortune. And basically what that does is that whenever you successfully interrupt, I should say, you get focus back. That'll be really good in Mythic Plus in particular. You don't usually have to interrupt too much in Raid. That could change, of course. But you do have to actually interrupt now. We still have that 24-second cooldown on the interrupt, but it does give you a little bit of focus back, much like using your Trank Shot successfully gives you 10 focus back. And then the other one I would go with, which is just kind of a quality of life thing, is Cheetah's Vigor. Alright, so now that we kind of got out of all that muck, let's go ahead and talk about our opener, our rotation, and talents. So let's go ahead and start with talents here. So for our single target talents, you're going to want to run with Master Marksman, and then Careful Aim, followed by Natural Mending, although if you are just running around just life in general, particularly in the Maw, Trailblazer is going to be the way to go. Followed by Steady Focus, then Post Haste or Born to be Wild, whichever you prefer. Then Double Tap, just because we are really bursty right now. That's how Marksman is played. This is also really good for PvP, because Double Tap in PvP causes problems for a lot of people. And then finally, level 50 is going to be Lock and Load, just because True Shot is just not the cooldown it used to be. I would have said go Calling the Shots, but it's just not the hard-hitting cooldown with Unerring Vision that it was in BFA. So for now, Lock and Load's the way to go. And then if we are going to go with AOE, particularly in Mythic Plus, this will be my go-to Mythic Plus build. You'll still run with Master Marksman, then you'll come over here to Explosive Shot, does some really good damage. Then Natural Mending, of course. Then you'll come over here to Streamline, since that's the better pickup versus the Steady Focus. Then here is still either Born to be Wild or Post Haste. From there, still picking up Double Tap. Lethal Shots can be good as well, but I like the... particularly since I am a Kyrian hunter, whenever I have that 50% chance to crit, I want to be hitting all those enemies twice. And then finally, you will be running with Volley. They did nerf the amount that Volley does itself, but you can still get out your aim shots and your rapid fires during it and still do some really good damage. As for the stat priority for Season 1 of Mythic Plus and for Castle Nathria, we have Weapon Damage, of course, duh, it'll always be our number one, followed by Agility, which is our main stat, then Crit, then Haste at approximately 15%, followed by Mastery, Verse, and then any haste over 15%. And the reason I put that 15% haste kind of plateaued there is because a sim will tell you that no haste is better, which is true. But in real world application, when you're having to move around, you're having to start and stop, and you have to get those really long casts of aim shot out. Once in a while, you'll just flat out miss them, and it feels really bad, and it does really hurt your damage overall. So it's more a quality of life thing to be rocking at least 12 to 15% haste. I wouldn't go any more than that though, particularly if you're running with Steady Focus. And then as for gearing, I'll have a video on all the different pieces of gear that I will be shooting for both Mythic Plus and then for Raid. But you're going to want to target gear that is crit mastery, crit haste, or mastery haste, until of course you get to that 15% haste. Then I wouldn't do any more than that. So opener and rotation in particular are kind of hotly debated still. For hunters, we're still trying to figure out the perfect way to play our hunter, but we are making some really good strides, and I found that this opener has really helped my rotation. So first, I'm running with double tap and steady focus in this rotation, and there is a guide over on Wowhead where you can actually put in the abilities you are taking talent-wise, and it might change it up a little bit. So be sure and check that out, and I will put a link in the description of the video as well. So starting out, we used double tap with 10 seconds left on the pull timer, and then at 3 seconds left, be sure and pre-pot. From there, use your aim shot as a precast just before the fight starts with approximately 2 seconds left. Then steady shot twice, that way you get your steady focus buff. From there, go ahead and use your Covenant ability and follow that up with an aim shot and then true shot. Since true shot is no longer on the global cooldown, it can piggyback on the former aim shot's global cooldown. Then you'll use rapid fire and you'll cast aim shot after that. So after that opener, you pretty much just run on a priority system. So for one, if your target is above 70% health and you're taking careful aim, make sure you use double tap on aim shot. Otherwise, use it on rapid fire. From there, make sure you don't cap on aim shot charges, because that's something that you don't want to do, but you also don't want to cap on focus too much unless you are, like I said earlier, trying to get your steady focus buff. You want to make sure and have that up as much as possible, and make sure you have a fresh steady focus buff up before you use your true shot, since it would last the entire duration until maybe later in the expansion when we have some more conduits. And then finally, make sure you're using the precise shot procs whenever your target is below 70% health, because they'll do a large amount of damage since they are buffed with that 75% increased damage. As for AOE rotation, it's pretty simple as well. Be sure and use your double tap on cooldown if you are taking it, of course. And remember, if you're wanting it to bounce like with trick shots, you don't actually need to get trick shots first. It does do that. Then use volley and explosive shot on cooldown, and then make sure and also use your Covenant ability on cooldown, particularly if you are Kyrian, because if you go double tap, explosive shot, volley, resonating arrow, and then lead with a rapid fire, you do insane amounts of damage very, very quickly. From there, make sure you always have trick shots up before using your rapid fire and aim shot, and then if you absolutely need to, use your steady shot to gain focus. So as for legendaries in this expansion, we can finally craft them, and we've got 3 that we're going to chat about, which I've talked about in previous videos. So the first one is going to be good for single target, which is Serpent Stalker's Trickery. Basically what it does, first off, the memory drops off the 3rd boss in Plaguefall, so you can continually farm it until you get it. But what it does is whenever you hit a target with an aim shot, which it has to be the single target that you hit, it doesn't count if it bounces, but it will put a Serpent Sting on there for its full duration, even if you don't take the talent, which I suggest you not take anyway. If you are using this in an AoE situation, you just want to hit different targets with your aim shot, and that's super easy to do. From there, the other one, which is kind of the one I want to get, although it comes off of a world boss there, as you see, which is Surging Shots, which what it does is it increases the damage done by rapid fire, and then it gives aim shot a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of rapid fire. This one's just good overall, and that's something that I like it for, is that I don't want to have to change too much. I don't have to completely change gear when I'm going from Mythic Plus to single target in Raid, that sort of thing. So this will be the one I go for, but since it does drop off a world boss, it's not going to be super easily got by everyone. But this will be the one that I will eventually run with once I get the memory. And then the last one, which I kind of talked about earlier in one of my previous videos, is the AOE Talents True Focus. So this drops off of the second boss in Castle Nathria, so it shouldn't be too hard to go ahead and get our hands on. Every hunter will eventually get it. But what it does is True Shot also reduces the focus cost of all of your abilities by 50%, which really smooths out the entire True Shot. In fact, it makes it actually better than it was in BFA. The one downfall is we don't really have enough haste to really make it be impactful. I could see this one being something we run with for one, if we're allowed to run with more than one legendary eventually. But two, once we have more haste and we have more stats from gear, this one will slowly start to creep up the ranks, and I eventually think it will be one of the go-to legendaries before the expansion is over with. And this is a section I don't normally add to my videos, but it's going to be for add-ons and macros. So I don't use too many add-ons or macros, honestly. I'm pretty plain Jane when it comes to my playstyle, but there are two that you want to run with macro-wise, which are just going to be stop casting macros for kill shot and then for feign death. And then, as you can see here on the screen, they're right there, basically just take that, I'll even put it in the description of the video, copy paste it, and then that way you still get your tooltip and it does stop cast. For example, if you're casting an aim shot or maybe even a steady shot, this could really save your life, or get that last second kill shot off in PvP or PvE. And then if you want to know all of my add-ons, they'll be found in the description of the video, as well as a video that I made back in BFA showing you how I set them up and use my weak auras, that sort of thing. And last but not least, we have consumables. So they've actually added a few new consumables, particularly oils, or weapon oils, for this expansion. And since I'm an alchemist, it's going to be super easy to make those. As for our flasks, obviously you want to use the Spectral Flask of Power, which gives us 70 agility. That's just going to be our go-to flask. For oils, you want to use the Shadow Core oil, and what it does is whenever you're attacking your target, you have a high probability of doing an additional 220 damage to the target, which will be a little bit of a DPS increase. And then also for pre-pots, if you are using said oil, as I just mentioned, you want to use the Potion of Phantom Fire, because it makes it do just a little bit more damage. And then if you're not using the oil for whatever reason, go ahead and just use the Potion of Spectral Agility, which is just your standard agility pot. From there, if you're looking to pick up some gems or you get lucky enough to have gem slots, we can add either plus 16 crit or plus 16 mastery. I really leave that up to you. I'll probably run with mastery gems just because I'll be getting enough crit and from my gear, since I'll be going crit mastery or crit haste items. And then also for enchants. So weapon enchant, I'm going to go with Celestial Guidance. What it does, it just basically gives you a 5% increase to your main stat, which will be agility. That'll be only better as we go through the expansion. Since we'll have more base agility, we'll get more with the 5%. On your chest, you want to make sure and do plus 30 stats. The plus 20 stats is also acceptable right now, particularly if you're poor. On your cloak, you want to run with plus 20 stamina and the 30 leech. That little bit of leech doesn't sound like a lot, but it could save your life at some point. On your rings, either do plus 16 crit or mastery. Like I said earlier with the gems, I'll probably run with mastery just because I'm going to be getting enough crit from my gear itself. And then on your boots, you want to run with plus 15 agility, because who doesn't like more main stat, right? So thanks for checking out this video, guys. Please leave me your feedback below. Please be nice, of course, to everyone. I'm not saying that I'm correct on 100% of things, but I do my best, and I will continue to update this video should I see fit. And then also, let me know what's good for your playstyle, because everybody does play a little bit different. I'm really excited for Castle Nathria and Mythic Plus. I'll have a lot of content out for you guys. I've kind of been taking a break a little bit now. I will continually update this video if it needs to be updated. Please be sure and check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mr. Eggplant. It's where I'll stream all of my raids and other vintage video games, that sort of thing. So thank you guys for watching. Can't wait to see you in the fields of battle, and I'll see you in the next video.